Hi, I'm Steve Pond from TheWrap. We're here at our virtual Sundance Film Festival studios with the director and cast of After Yang. Director Kogonada, actors Colin Farrell, Jodie Turner-Smith, Justin Min, Haley Lu Richardson, and I apologize in advance for my pronunciation here, Malia Imachandra Idaja. Sorry, you can correct me on your last name, but welcome.
Malia, tell him the correct pronunciation.
It's Chandra Wijaya.
Okay, what she said. Congratulations on a beautiful film. I'll start with Kogonada, with the director. I mean, it's a science fiction film in certain ways, but it's a lot more about what's going on here than what's going on out there. I mean, this was a short story. What led you to this story, and why did you want to make a film of it?
Yeah, I was just I was given this collection of short stories that were all sci-fi, and this was the lowest sci-fi. It was just so grounded and really was about a family that where this loss kind of created a space for reflection. And at first, what I loved about this short story is there's when Yang breaks down, it almost feels like an annoyance, like when an appliance breaks down, and it didn't feel tragic at the time. And then it really is about almost the discovery of loss. And there was something really there that I found really moving as I was reading this brief story. I felt really compelled by it.
Right. We should point out that the Yang who breaks down we're talking about is played by Justin, who is basically this is set in a time when you can buy a robot to help watch your kids, and he's a family member, but then he breaks down and they have to figure out if they can fix him, but that's only the beginning. I mean, Colin, for you, what made you want to be a part of this, and what were the keys for you to your character?
I was just thinking, quicken the technology. I'd put down some cold hard cash for a robot that could take care of the kids. I love the script. I had seen Columbus, that Haley Lu starred in as well, Kogonada's first feature film, and I loved the film. I was incredibly moved by it, and it stayed with me. The way people sometimes say that they're haunted by films. I kind of was haunted by it, and by the kind of dignified way in which he allowed the characters to relate to each other. The film Columbus was devoid of all histrionics, and it didn't feel like there was any moments being played. Haley Lu, you were so extraordinary in it, as was John. And I thought the look of Columbus was just so beautiful. The space and the time and the breath, that was such a fundamental part of that experience for me viewing it. So then when I read After Yang and I heard Kogonada had adapted this short story, I fell in love with the script. I was a bit nervous about it because, as we were saying earlier, we were talking with Jodie about it as well, just there was nowhere to hide really in the script. It's not a script that has any pointed moments, any super kind of emotional moments, or any scenes that felt like they were loud. And yet all the important themes that I certainly have dealt with and deal with and will deal with in the future: loss, grief, family, belonging, the ostracization we can feel sometimes from ourselves and from those we love, parenting, all of that stuff was what the film fundamentally was about. And so I read the script, and again, I was haunted by the script and just wanted to be, really wanted to be a part of it. And it was one of the, honestly, in 20 years of doing this, it was one of the most beautiful and one of the most thoughtful and one of the most intimate experiences I've had on a film. And a lot of that was obviously as a result of he who created the script, Kogonada, but also Kogonada's energy as a man and an artist, both inseparable from each other. But it was just an amazing time with this cast, and we just had it was a family. It just felt like a family, it really did. It was an incredibly intimate experience. So happy days.
Right. I mean, Haley, was your experience on Columbus such that you wanted to come back and do and work with Kogonada again?
That is such an understatement for how I feel. Yeah, Columbus was one of the most kind of, I don't know, this sounds dramatic, but one of the most kind of life-changing and inspiring things I've ever experienced. So, yeah, I mean, anytime Kogonada is writing something and there's anything that I could be involved with it, I will throw myself at it. But yeah, Kogonada really, what Colin was saying, and we were talking about earlier, this, like, you know, the stillness, and exploring feeling within that is so, I think you use this word, Colin, but it is like so freeing. And so the whole concept of less is more is something that I felt with Columbus, and I like felt it in my body, and it's something I felt with After Yang and Ada. And it's kind of addicting to, once you kind of feel that and let yourself act in that way, it's kind of addicting. I just want to keep doing that.
Right. Malaya, how did you get involved in this? You'd never made a feature film before, had you?
No, not yet, until this. Well, so Kogonada actually told me that he at first watched my video singing the national anthem at an LA Galaxy game, and he thought that I would be a good Mika. So he requested me to do an audition. And then I found out that the script was actually from the short story Saying Goodbye to Yang. So then I read that, and I just really wanted to connect with my character and know her personality and how I'm supposed to portray her. So then after that, I really liked the script because Kogonada made it so beautiful and he made it really detailed. And I just really loved it so much. And then Kogonada met up with me and my family, and we talked about, well, we actually met up at Starbucks, and we talked about the movie, and we just talked a lot in general. And well, that's how I got involved with After Yang.
Right.
I should just say, how old were you when we contacted you? Were you 6 at that point or 5? Do you remember?
I don't know, actually. I think I was 6. I think so.
I feel like she was half the size she is now, but remarkable, the casting director. And this was before we were even officially casting. They brought her in, and she had not done this before, but she had read the lines and she had already had it all memorized. And then they gave her a few notes, and she adjusted like some pro, I mean, the casting director was like, "Oh my God, you have to watch how she took this note." And it was pretty remarkable. It was really, I think we were all just sort of amazed that we were able to find her so immediate. I mean, it was right at the beginning. We thought it was going to be the hardest person to cast, and she was like a gift.
So what is it about her that in watching her sing the national anthem at a sporting event, you immediately decided that she should be in your movie?
Well, she sort of looked like this when I was writing it. I had this particular little Asian girl in mind. She kind of reminds me of like my nieces, who were all precocious and had this sort of personality. And, I had just finished, like my boys were getting out of that stage. So, when I was writing it was very sentimental. I was thinking about I think in some ways, Yang is both like this AI, profound robot, but he's also like any grandparent that you have who's sitting in the corner and who seems like, that they've almost become childlike. But if you open them up, they have this profound sense of time that we don't realize, right? We could unpack, and you're like, oh my God, they loved before, they've lost before. And I think just being confronted by that sort of thing. But yeah, but anyway, I was like recalling my boys as well, who also had this sort of personality, and there was just something about her immediately that was like, oh my God, this was the girl I was writing, So we just needed to know she could act, and she was amazing.
Right, Jody, what interested you in doing this? For you, what were the keys to your character? She's sort of the sensible one in the family, though. I feel like.
Yeah, I think you know, it's always so interesting to do something when you actually have no real frame of reference for it, in terms of the fact that, you know, and I was saying to Kogonada when I saw him at Cannes, like, you know, after I did this film, I became a wife and I became a mother. And there are just so many different like nuances of that I was like, oh my God, I wish I could have layered those in too. But, you know, I came onto the project late because unfortunately the actress that they had initially cast in the role was not able to do it. And so I came in when everybody else was cast, and so I was excited about everyone that I would get the chance to collaborate with, and I was very excited to work with Kogonada. I was so in love with the script and his work, and when I met him, it just kind of confirmed everything. It's like I was sort of following my instincts, because I read it, I knew who was involved, I knew Colin was involved, and I was like, oh my God, Colin Farrell, like, absolutely, I would love to do a movie where I'm in it with Colin Farrell. I mean, you know, I have admired his work for so long. And I flew to New York to audition for this. And when I did, it was literally like, I mean, I dropped in and it was like a matter of days that I was then cast in the film. And when I met and sat down with and talked to Kogonada, we met at some place in New York and had breakfast, and we talked about the role. And I just got the sense that it was going to be this deeply collaborative environment. And, you know, as a performer, that's just the most exciting thing in the world, when you sit down with somebody and it feels like this is going to be something where you get to really bring your entire self to, and all of your experience, as limited as it might be for what it is that you're about to do. But I was just so struck by this story. And I think often in families, the mother is considered to be sort of the sensible one, because, you know, you are sort of that foundation in that way. And so it was really just about, you know, being of service to the story, you know, just getting out of the way of the story. And that's what I thought was so beautiful about it, and so interesting, and I was so excited to do.
Yeah. Justin, how about you? I mean, you're playing a character who, you know, seems to be just a normal human, but it turns out is a manufactured version of a human. So how does that, you know, how do you calibrate that performance?
Well, it's interesting because when I first got the audition, I had not been given the script, so there was no overtly explicit directions in terms of him being an AI. And the first scene that I got, I believe, was with Mika. And so without knowing the context, I sort of just played it as an older brother figure. And it was only after the fact that I read the full script and realized that it was an AI. But in conversations with Kay, I think we really wanted to bring the humanity at times to this character. So in many ways, I didn't have to necessarily put anything on in terms of an artificial intelligence. And I think one of the things that I was really struck by in the script is that this is one of the first things that I've read in the sci-fi artificial intelligence space, where the robot is not trying to become a human. I feel like that's a lot of the narratives that we see in film and television. And I just thought there was something really beautiful about this robot who was so content being a robot and wanted to do what he could to serve his family as a robot. And in a society where we encourage ambition and always getting better and doing more, there was something about the quiet humility of this character that really struck me as someone who can be content with his current circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, Colin, I feel like so much of the movie comes down to, you know, your character basically seeing all of Yang's memories, but they're in your head, and you're going through, you know, big changes. But as you said, you're doing it very, very quietly. I mean, what was the challenge of conveying so much while, you know, doing very little?
I mean, as various past performances, I think, attest to, I find it hard to be still and do nothing and not be active and not be, you know, imposing, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, my will upon a scene sometimes. And after Yang, I suppose, asked me, I think asked us all to just throw all those notions away and just, honestly, it sounds so rudimentary, but it's tricky at times, just to be present and just to observe. And I think one of the many things, and I've never answered it anytime I've been asked through the years, what's this film about? It never feels for me to say, and film should be about whatever the purveyor of it is experiencing. But one of the things for me that this is about is just how we lose sight of the kind of, at times, glorious magic that we can find if we pay a little bit more attention to the mundane, like the really simple, mundane things in our lives, whether it's breakfast with the family, or a sunrise or a sunset, or just a moment's stillness, or a butterfly landing on a flower, or whatever it may be. Just the things that William Carlos Williams wrote about, things that are simple and can be easily overlooked. And through Justin's beautiful work and through the memories that, because Yang is kind of like a living, techno sapien, a robot, but a living, breathing time capsule that has recorded our shared experience, and a shared experience that my character is kind of oblivious to. And he's been off in his own head, worrying about his own life and his own dreams not being fulfilled, and all that he's missed the beauty of what exists all around him every day, which is his wife and his daughter. So it was just, as Haley Lu was saying, it was kind of that space, the Kogonada. And the whole shoot felt to me kind of like an extension of a rehearsal. I never felt like there was a moment where we stopped rehearsing and then the camera was turned on. It was just this kind of continuous shared dialogue and experience that we all had. There was an ease which was engendered by Kogonada in the shooting of the film, which doesn't mean that I didn't feel tense at times, but there was no tension coming at me from elsewhere,
Right. Well, I'd love to keep talking about this because there's so much you can get into in this film, but I think we need to wrap up. So, congratulations on Haley.
Well, no, I was moving because you said wrap. Wrap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So, congratulations on a beautiful, quiet, eloquent film. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks, man.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having
Thank
me.
you so much.